was still so much more work to do before that could happen. The canister sloshed in his hand with each step as he made his way through the living room, down the hallway, and into the master bedroom. The room that had been off-limits to everyone who had ever come through here. The truth was, he'd been here before. It had just been a very long time. And even if it hadn't been so long, he would still consider them strangers. If he could go back in time and disassociate from them, he would. But that wasn't possible. So, he would have to settle on this. Paul and Charlene sat blindfolded, tied back to back onto chairs strapped together. They couldn't get out. It was a job well done, he thought, as he admired the handiwork. Are you back? Paul managed to ask. He was bloody from the beating he had taken, far less than he deserved, but again, there had been no time. He decided not to answer Paul, not yet anyway. He could hear the sirens in the distance, which meant he had to do this now before it was too late. There would be no more questions, only actions. Dylan, is that... The police, he finally said, keeping his voice low and gruff. Oh, thank God, Charlene said, her voice relieved. He could see the tears running down her face, soaking into the eye mask that had been tightly strapped over her face. You're doing the right thing, Dylan, Paul said. We'll speak to the police and... He raised the canister and flipped it over their heads. Paul immediately shut his mouth when the liquid hit him. Charlene started to protest, coughing and spitting as the substance touched her lips. Oh my God, Charlene said, the first to realize what was happening. It's gas. Paul sputtered, catching up to his cunt wife's realization. Oh my... Dylan, we told you everything we could. We did everything you asked us to. You can't do this to us. Dylan, talk to me. Dylan's not here, he said in his gravelly voice. It was the truth. Dylan was far too good for this type of thing, so that's where he came in. That's where he helped Dylan, even though he never asked for it or knew it was happening. What? Paul asked, his voice breathy and desperate. Charlene continued to sob and scream. You made your bed, he said. Now you can sleep in it. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, Charlene kept saying, her words a broken record. There was no meaning behind any of them. Paul thought he could still reason with him. He was a confident prick. Maybe that was a decent term for him. Prick. Wait, Dylan, please, I'm begging you, don't do... And then the lighter was struck and in the air. Once the fumes caught the small, tiny flame, Paul and Charlene were engulfed in fire. Their screams started off strong, but as the seconds clicked by, they were beyond recognizable. There was nothing they could do but sit there, strapped to the chairs, and burn. He watched them from the doorway for as long as he could tolerate the heat from the fire. It was when the stench of their burning flesh hit his nose, overtaking every other scent in the house, that he decided it was time to leave. The sirens were much closer than before. Soon, the police would be in here, just as planned, but there would be no saving them. He turned around and headed out the same way he came in, listening to the peaceful sound of the sirens in the distance. The reeds were no longer screaming. Chapter 1. Answer the gosh darn phone, Elven yelled into the receiver. As if that was going to do any good. He'd left countless messages on Carolina's voicemail. In fact, this wasn't even a message he was leaving. The voice on the other end had informed him in its annoyingly robotic tone. The voicemail box is full. Please try again later. His shouts had been for nothing other than releasing frustration. Carolina was never going to hear him, no matter how loud, how irritated, or how many countless times he shouted. But he'd already left enough messages that if she decided to finally check them, he was sure she'd get the point. The problem was, she wasn't checking them. He knew this because he was the one who'd filmed.